do another one here now that I'm not muted. Okay, and here we go. Okay, black to move. Oh god, knight and pawn endgames. These and queen and pawn endgames are probably my most hated endgames. Well, where to begin on this? I guess we could entertain running the c pawn, but white rather is in the square of that, so that could drive his king away, and then I could maybe try to get the g pawn rolling. I don't really have many options here, right? Like moving the a pawn makes zero sense to me. He's just going to queen. Moving my king to h3 seems pretty pointless as well, although I am threatening to take on h2 and then run the g pawn, but it's pretty slow, right? Like king h3, d6. That's pretty slow. Now, I am threatening to promote with check, so he does have to either stop it with his king or his knight, and he might be able to do that. So c3, if d6, c2. Well, he's too slow to come in with the knight, right? So yeah, this is too slow. Even though he will be able to queen with check as well, I beat him to the punch. So c3, he, in my opinion, or not my opinion, but as far as I'm aware, he has to bring in the king because everything else is going to be too slow. You know, even if he runs the pawn and then I push again, yeah, it's too slow. So he needs to bring in his king, or at least move the king somewhere. But probably he goes towards my pawn with king d3. And then I actually have pants here. But what makes things difficult is he has a knight. He has a knight. But I can make pants here, or trousers. So c3, king e3 rather, is forced. And I don't think I want to push again. It's not going to make sense. So c3, king e3, f4 check. If he goes king f4, I'm too fast to stop. Although it's still a little scary with where my king where it is. But c3, king e3, f4 check. We've established that he can't take the pawn. So he'll have to chase down my c pawn. So king d3. And then I just do the pants. And yeah, and I think the best way to do that, I think there's only one way to do that, which is f3. But just look at that again. c3, king e3, f4 check, king d3. I don't think I want to push c2 because he'll take it, and then after I push f3, he'll actually be just in time. So yeah, so c3, king e3, f4 check, king d3, and then I go f3. And then if he goes king takes c3, I go f2, and he's too slow, even with the knight. So yeah, this is all about pants here. So c3, king e3, f4, king d3, f3, and if he tries to bring in his knight here, via knight e4. Actually, hang on, that seems to be a problem. Oh no, because okay, let me look like that. Okay, that's the last thing I have to solve here. So c3, king e3, f4 check, king d3, f3. Did I do f3? Let me slow down. c3, king e3, f4 check, king d3, f3. And then if he goes knight e4, I don't have I don't have a solution for that yet. I might have king h3, but that's a whole other can of worms. So I'm looking at f3, king e3, f4 check, king d3, f3. Actually, if he then goes knight e4, I might. It's probably too slow. I was going to say I might have g3. I almost wonder if I can play g3 before f3. That's what I was calculating, but I'm not so sure. c3, king e3, f4, king d3, f3, king e4, knight e4. The knight e4 really throws a wrench into the works. I almost wonder if I could go king g5. That's a whole other thing though. So c3, king e3, and then king g5, because his knight won't be able to go to e4 later. That's a huge curveball though. c3, king e3, king g5. Actually, the problem with that is I think he might have knight h5. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is tricky though. c3, king e3, f4, king d3, f3, knight e4. It just seems too slow. If I then go king h3, it just seems like there's no way, you know. King h3, e6. Yeah. c3, king e3, f4, king d3, f3, knight e4, king h3, d6, king takes h2, d7. I'm way too slow there. Wow. There is another potential pants, but I don't think it works. I was looking at c3, king e3, g3, h takes g3, king takes g3, knight takes h5. You know, I just don't think that's working though. It's got to be my original line, but I don't know what to do after 94. c3, king e3, f4, king d3, f3. But maybe I don't play f3 right away. Yeah, maybe I play g3 there instead of f3. So c3, king e3, f4, king d3, g3. If he takes on c3, I take on h2, which is still kind of tight because he'll get a pawn on d7 with the knight protecting it. But yeah, later I might have king g5 there, but that's still close. But it might be g3 there. So c3, king e3, f4, king d3, and then g3. g3, h takes g3, and oh yeah, then f takes g3. If knight e4, then I've got g2. He can't stop promotion. So I think it might be g3. I'm going to play the first few moves though, but I think it's going to be g3 at the end. So c3, king e3, f4, king d3, and then g3 here. g3. Again, if he takes, then I take on g3, and he's not stopping that. And he'll push, and we will queen at the same time, which does freak me out. So c3, king e3, f4, king d3, g3, hg, fg, d6, g2, d7, b1 queen, d8 queen. That's scary. I mean, I don't know, man. Then we've got queen d1. Wow, that's a crazy one. I'm going to start with these first moves though. c3, yeah, he goes here. I'm going to go f4 check. And yeah, here I think it's g3. I think it's G3. Because again, I looked at C4, but I don't know what I'm doing after knight e4. It just doesn't seem to work to me. If I play G3 at that point, he can just take and sack the knight even. So I think it's G3 here. I'm going to go with that. I think the ending is going to be Queen D1, or rather from here to here. So let's trust my previous calculation. Yeah, and then we take with the pawn, and then we get this. This is gonna be the finish. This is gonna be the finish. Oh, so here he brings in the knight. I thought it was good. This would have been more fun, but yeah, here I just queen. Doesn't make sense not to. And it ends there. I'm gonna open up chat. I got it. New personal best on chess.com puzzles 31:15. But I wish the computer finished it this way. That would have been a more elegant way to complete it. So the point was D7, I queen, he queens, and then Queen D1 with a skewer at the end. I thought that would have been much more fitting for an ending there. Because you have to see that. Because I didn't see the skewer immediately. And then I was wondering, I'm like, I don't know, is that enough? Like, he's got a knight and a queen here, even though it's my move. I don't know if that's enough to like draw or win. But then, yeah, once I saw Queen D1. So that would have been much nicer if it went that way. Hello, bouncing across, learning chess. Bananas are good. We're just looking at the chat now. So that was a tough one because I didn't see the G3 idea for quite a while. I kept looking at this and then knight e4, and I just couldn't make that work. You know, I saw the pants and I went with them. But yeah, just couldn't make it work. I was thinking, like, I looked at G3 here after knight e4. I looked at F3, knight e4, G3 here, but it still didn't seem to work because he can, again, just sacrifice the knight and then run his d-pawn. So, yeah, playing it immediately. And it's another type of pants here. Excuse me. So that was, I enjoyed that puzzle. That's a nice little puzzle there. Yeah, new personal best on chess.com puzzles. Actually, I just did one prior to this, but it didn't, I had my microphone muted. So I had to do another one because I'm going to put this up on YouTube. Yeah, that was enjoyable. So let's just look at my account as a little celebration. Yeah, I had not done puzzles on chess.com for a while because I really peak sat there for let's see how long I peak sat for. So I set my previous best on September 14th. So over 2 months. Yeah, so about 10 weeks. 10 weeks. And this is my graph over time. And over the past year. So didn't really climb that much over the past year, but I also stopped doing a lot of puzzles. I didn't do too many puzzles this past year. Cool.